episode of the SheBreathes Soul Stories podcast. I am your host, Jen Gulbrand, and I am thrilled to be in our virtual studio today with my very good friend, Ria MacKenzie. Ria is the owner of Ria MacKenzie Photography, and her specialty is boudoir and creative photography, which really is providing women with liberating experiences to see themselves as art. And I love that. And I'm confident this is going to be a compelling conversation for all of you today. So, welcome, Ria. It's so nice to have you
Thank
here.
you. Thank you for having me and thank you for the intro.
Yes, of course. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone's really interested now to learn more about what I just said, but
Yeah.
let's just begin with asking you, as we all know, this podcast is inviting women to show up for themselves and share personal stories about themselves to help audiences better understand who they are, what they've been through, and how they've come through everything. So, why don't we begin with that? What personal journey would you like to share, or story, I should say?
I think that reflecting on the work that I do, it was almost like the universe what just handed it over and was like, you're going to help people see their actual worth. And for myself, it was a mirror reflected on me saying, do you see your own actual worth? So it was
Yes.
very much like it was very full circle having this career because it was always just anything that happened with my clients, which I approach this like we're having fun. You're going to feel sensual in your body. You're going to see yourself in amazing ways, but it was so much deeper. So
Right.
for me, my business has always been a reflection on, well, you're helping this person see that. Do you see that in yourself? Um,
Right.
so it's been really great to grow in this work. So for my personal story, I would say that for years, I grew up as the people pleaser, like the good girl, the good child that did the right things. So I was always praised on that. And it translated throughout my adulthood and even in my business because I was always trying to please others and not looking in the mirror. And it's still something I work on all the time. Like it's so much easier for me to help others than to do the work myself. And it really wasn't until I started doing the work myself that I was able to just transform the experience that I'm giving my clients to be something deeper for them, where it's more self-discovery and more meaningful for them. So here we
Well,
are.
maybe we should take a pause and just explain to people what it is that you actually do. When we say boudoir photographer, excuse me, photography, I'm not sure everyone who's listening knows what that is. So tell
Yeah.
us about that because I
Okay,
think
so
it's important.
originally boudoir was it was a salon where women were in their own bedroom. So it originally came from France and it was a woman's bedroom where like she may have her friend with her or she's getting ready and it's like the intimacy that they have as a woman. And it transformed into in the photography world of we're going to strip down and take pictures and feel empowered, but it's developed over time into either or. And I think that it's really special now because it's as healing as the individual wants it to be. But also in a photography sense, I think that it's really important to learn how to hold that space for your clients. You can be a
Absolutely.
photographer that's just like having fun doing the mini sessions. And I think for a while it was very male dominated and centered where the pictures were for the partner. And in partner, they mean the male. And it's so much more than that now. It's just such a
Of course.
broad spectrum of not only femininity, but beyond the realms of femininity and masculinity. It's how someone is envisioning their sensuality personalized to them and literally breaking down the patriarchal thoughts of what sensuality means for their own personal empowerment.
Right. I mean, think about, we talk a lot on this program about shame and limiting beliefs and the stories that we have in our subconscious mind that date back to childhood. I mean, you mentioned being a people pleaser and how that sort of unfolds in our life and how we show up within those narratives. So I have to believe that this experience could must be so liberating for anyone who does it, regardless of how they identify, because they are given an opportunity to show up so raw and so real and so vulnerably. But there's so much power with that, right?
Yeah.
It like allows you to reclaim that power and really it takes courage, but I think it must just, I mean, I have not personally experienced it, but
That
I can only yet, yeah, I can only, nobody wants to see this, but I can
only
only
you, but only you want to see it. That's the
right,
thing.
right,
Nobody wants to, in our heads, I think that
right,
what keep women or anyone back from like getting vulnerable in front of the camera. I mostly photograph women. Um, I have not even stepped beyond that realm. Like I photographed my trans friend that transitioned into a man. So that was very powerful for him
yes,
to affirm his own identity and finally be at peace and be really proud of the body that he's in
I love that.
for the first time in over 30 years. So that was really powerful.
I just got
But
goosebumps when you just explained that.
yeah,
That's
but for
amazing.
anyone, it's really affirming because
Yeah,
for so many of us, we don't recognize that we're speaking to ourselves that we should be in this certain body in order to feel a certain way about ourselves. And that's why it is liberation because it's freeing you of the thought
right,
that we don't have to be XYZ to actually enjoy and be at peace in the body that we're in. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like boudoir is the end all and we're going to snap our fingers and walk out the
of
door and just
course.
be at home in our bodies, but it's a returning and, like you said, a reclamation back to yourself and reclaiming your narrative.
Absolutely. And you know, you think about, I mean, so many women, right, who sadly don't love their body or have self loathing, for which obviously stems way beyond the physical, right? Because most of us are struggling with our own, our emotional burdens, and that ties so closely to our bodies. But you know, I don't know a lot of women who feel 100% connected to and or in love with how they look. So I can only, which is sad, right? It's
Yeah.
tragic. So that's why I feel like this work is so important, because you're giving them an opportunity to see who they are. You know, we're always talking about being seen, you know, authentically, but to your point in the beginning when you shared your story, if you can't see yourself like that, how is anyone else expected to see you the way you want to be seen? And that's the work, right? It gets down to that core self love, which we're just not taught. We're not taught to love ourselves from an early age. Hopefully, that's changing now with our parenting.
I
But
think I honestly I do think it's changing. Some of the
yeah,
most empowered women that have come in with like when we talk about boudoir, it's like feeling the level of confidence enough to trust that you're going to be even more confident when you're stepping out. So there is a level of confidence when people say like, "Oh, I'm not confident at all. I can't do this." That does take a level of confidence just to even book and trust that like trust the process that this is going to be transformative in some way, whether or not it's
right.
like for originally when I started again, like it was for
Their
the
partner,
or
right?
like for someone, but for them to recognize that this is going to be for themselves. And
Right.
it is a process of intention setting because they're setting the intention that, like, I know I can do this. I trust that I can do this. And I trust that I'm going to get something really big out of this experience. And I'm not sure what it is yet, but I trust that it is going to do that. And that's just kind of the way life works is like
Of
it's
course.
setting in the intention. But again, with being happy with how they look, it's not, it goes beyond just like the vision of yourself, but it really taps you into the energetics and the
I was just
feeling
going to
of
say that.
feeling
Yeah.
that you are this beautiful being and dropping into your body while you're in your session and being guided into the movements that are almost recalibrating your brain to say like,
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yes.
Like it's fun to be in my body. I am a sensual being and it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, the sensuality doesn't have to be for anyone but me, and it feels good. And they walk away with that feeling, and then they have that visual to hold that. Um,
It's amazing. It ties so much into the work that I do with my, the somatic therapy and stuff, right? Because we are taught that we can solve all of our problems in with our beautiful brains, but so much of what is stored within us is in our physical and energetic body, as you just stated. And I think the this idea of dropping from all the mindset stuff into who you are physically and energetically is the trick to making this so successful. So how do you hold that space for people who come in and are a little unsettled around it? Like, how do you help them to drop from their heads into their hearts and into their bodies during a session?
so I think that I've exercised my voice really well with my clients, and we have this connection where they know that they don't have to come in with this like perfect mindset of confidence or letting go of insecurities, and they should still never be afraid to talk about their insecurities. Like they're not expected to come in there and like
Right.
leave them at the door. Like they are allowed to show up with insecurities because we do all have them and they don't necessarily go away. There's just moments they're really loud and moments where we are able to quiet them and celebrate who we are really at the core. So I think they know that ahead of time, and it's a process of like just reminding them of that during their session. Like when they walk in the door till the moment they leave, because they do see their photos the day of,
Okay.
and they see a variety and wide range of their emotions from an hour taking pictures with me. And I want them to see that. I want them to not just see like them with a more sensual face, but like their laugh and their genuine smile and their goofy pictures. Like I will throw
Even
in
their discomfort, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and I will
Yeah.
throw in the blooper reel, well,
Yeah.
the blooper photos just for a good laugh because it
Yeah.
like is almost like, oh my God, yes, I was
Right.
laughing in that moment and
Yeah.
or they're being silly and like all of a sudden they just let loose and they really don't care about the actual expression or pose. They're just like playing and I'll
Right.
give them that photo and they'll love it because they're like,
Oh
oh, I
yeah.
didn't even realize you were taking my photos then. And
That's
that
so
looked really
great.
good. But during the session, I'll invite them to do breath work if I can
Mhm.
feel that they're in their head. So if I can
Great.
see that their mind is racing, or they're a little stiff, then we'll just do some breath work. We'll turn on the music. We'll just kind of let them move their own body,
Mhm.
and allow them to just kind of let it all out and shake it all out.
Yeah.
And
Move
then
the
we'll get back.
energy of it. Move the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of whatever's blocking them.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think led you to this focus in your photography? I mean, I know you talked a lot about your own journey of sort of that idea of stripping down and being vulnerable with yourself. Do you remember when you were like, when you had that aha moment, this is what I want to do to support others?
Well, I'm always really attracted to fun.
Yeah, fun is good.
So for me, it was like, wow, this is the most. I remember having mini sessions like in 2012, and I'm like, this is the most fun. I would do this. I would 1,000% photograph boudoir and only boudoir, and I don't need anything else. I was like, I just want to do this.
It's what brought
It
you
feels so good.
joy. Yeah.
Yeah, it brought me joy because it brought so much joy to them. And I think as a woman and as a mother and someone that's like always people pleasing and giving to others, I found it really special to just have a space and where they could feel that nurture. And I
Yeah.
am a nurturer at heart, so it felt good to nurture the nurturers. So I think my big aha to keep going and get deeper was probably when I was like at the peak of my imposter syndrome because women were coming to me and they were telling me like very emotional stories of theirs. And I was honored to hold that space for them. But I again was like, am I even worthy of documenting you in this? Like how I couldn't believe that like it meant this much to them. Um, it just kind of
And
came
then,
to me as a gift, but I didn't recognize that I was like creating this space where women could really let out their story and really tap into that light inside of them that they dimmed because of things that have happened that are out of their control.
yeah,
Um, so a series of clients that just reminded me that like what I am doing is really special. Like it's really, really
it's
special.
so special.
And it's once seeing them emotional, just watching their looking at their slideshow of photos when they're in my studio, it just like would always hit a chord and we're like hugging and celebrating their entire life of like just getting to this moment where they can see themselves as beautiful and strong and powerful.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, in some ways, it's very similar to the work that we're doing with the Soul Stories project. It's just a different version of it, right?
Yeah.
It's allowing people, holding the space for people to show up authentically, be real, even though it's a little scary. But when we do this, I mean, think about when people, for example, when people hear the stories that we share, right? Maybe some of our listeners, they may feel less alone or oh my gosh, that happened to somebody else. Now I don't feel broken. I'm not so alone. It's very similar, I'm suspecting, when they see these beautiful imagery that you put out there of these women to be like, wow, like look at her go. Look at how courageous and beautiful she is and how liberating this must have been for her, right? Like I think my
It
point is
does.
when we show up like this, we not only help ourselves and we go through our own healing and sense of empowerment, but I feel that we create and foster connection and community by doing this work
Yes.
because we reach out across many different platforms and make other people feel good and maybe a little more willing to come out from hiding, as I like to say.
Yeah. And I
So
think
many of us
that
are hiding.
we're hiding, but I think that our sensuality hides even deeper.
Even deeper,
Um,
yes.
so I think that it goes so deep for people in today's world. And I think that the busier that we are, like it's so much easier to put our
Hmm.
sensual pleasure and into the dark.
Well,
Like put
because
it away because we don't
yeah.
have time for that. Like we don't have time to be in our sensuality. Um,
Well,
and
I think there's also people fear it. They fear how it's going to be perceived. I mean,
yes,
let's talk about that. Like, what about
yeah,
the fears or the reservations that you or your clients have, in thinking about doing something like this? And it's, if you think about it, it's always about what other people are going to think. It's
it,
always the
it certainly
external
is. So
response,
one
right?
of my personal stories that I share with especially women that have partners or family members or they come from different religious backgrounds, like they are so lit up and liberated after their boudoir. But again, like sharing their images is completely up to them. Like
Right.
some people are not in a good in a place in life where they feel supported enough to
Hmm.
share images and have this ripple effect of empowerment that like anybody can actually do this. Like anyone can actually
Yes.
do boudoir and feel this way and have that opportunity to feel this way. But not everyone is going to be comfortable
Doing so.
sharing a message or an image. And
Right.
that's okay. That can stay with them. It doesn't have to go anywhere else. Some people even feel bad. They're like, I'm sorry, I can't share my images. They don't
Ex-
have to feel bad at all. Some people are
exactly.
just not at that place or have the support system where that would be okay for them. Or they can have, they're still at a job where that's not supported at all and it could hurt their career.
Sure.
Um, so many people like in the entertainment industry, school industry, government jobs, like they cannot go around sharing
Right.
these personal images.
Right.
Um,
Right. Which is
but again,
understood. And like you said, it's not really, it's for them to begin with.
yes,
But
but my
those,
own personal journey is that like my husband didn't feel comfortable with me being a leader in the boudoir industry and sharing my own images, but I recognized that it was a huge fear of me stepping in front of the camera because like stepping in front of the camera should have only been for him.
uh,
And for myself, I'm like, no, I want to step in front of the camera for my community, for myself. Like
yes.
my sensuality and the way I express myself is not just for you. It's for me to feel empowered. And my
Mm,
version of empowerment is going to look different than you're used to seeing me. So here we
yes.
go. So it was a huge like step in our relationship as a couple for me to step into this role and raise our family where I am going to embrace my sensuality because that's what the women need and that's what I
Yes.
want to.
But it's amazing. I mean, and of course that is, I'm sure, a very common response from
Mhm.
a partner, a husband, a spouse, right?
Yeah. He's
Because
totally okay with
it
it
be
now. He'll comment
right.
on my Instagram.
I'm sure. But it's that sense of privacy, right?
Yeah.
That we're taught this, that we're socialized. This is private. You don't talk about your sexuality, right? I mean, my generation particularly, you
Yeah.
don't talk about that. You don't share that, and you certainly don't show it, right? So
How
I
dare
like,
I?
how dare you, right? You trollop.
Leave it for the bedroom.
Exactly, but I think this is what's so beautiful about the work that you're doing, and just the whole concept of us promoting this idea of sharing more honestly all of ourselves,
Yes.
the things that happen, the stories, are all everything that you're talking about. And that's why I think it's so important that we have these discussions, because
Yeah.
the more we do that, the more willing people are going to be to kind of step outside of their comfort zone, because they see the benefit for
They do.
themselves.
And I think that doing this for my entire, like for many years, so since 2012, and having clients like even bring up pictures from over a decade ago and like showing their daughters, like, do
Yes.
you want me to show you something about when I felt horribly about my body?
Mm,
When I talked negatively to myself? Let me show you this picture of myself. And they'll show them the picture, and their daughters are like, oh, so
I,
beautiful. But it's
right?
so relatable because they recognize that the negative self-talk, you can break it and it's a
Yes.
choice. And it's a journey that we all go on as humans to have this negative
Particularly
connotation
women.
towards our body.
Particularly
Particularly
women.
women, yeah, towards
Yeah.
our body and then have
Yes.
it show up in a lot of avenues of our life. So a lot of times when we're subconsciously not liking the way that we look, it comes out in all the other aspects in life, right?
Sure does.
It comes out in all the confident areas that we desire to be confident in. Um,
Yes.
so it's really great to just keep doing the work and having my clients grow in this way and like
Mm.
be able to show their kids now, like, hey, and
Yeah.
pretty soon it's going to be their grandkids, like, want to see grandma.
It's well, and they're going to see you in a whole different light, right? Because
Right.
you are, because we sort of pigeonhole ourselves, and and the people we love, in roles. But
Yeah.
right, they don't think about us as sexual beings. You're the mother, you're the grandmother, it's very interesting.
But it's also like an artistic journey of just your
Yeah,
body. It's just a body. And
exactly.
I
Right.
try to preach that to my kids all the time. Like, that is why I would always take them to the museum. I wanted them to see art in the nude form. Like, it is a
Yes.
body and it doesn't have to be sexualized. Yes, I can
Exactly.
feel sensual in my body and I can celebrate my sexuality and sensuality, but it's not for someone else. It's for
Right.
me. And I can be, and that's the whole reclamation, right? It's that
Yeah.
you don't have to, it's by me showing up as a sensual being, it's not for you.
It's for me.
It's just for me and it's my
Yeah.
journey.
Self-love. Yeah. It's amazing. Have you found that sort of the act of doing this work, and talking more about why you do the work, has strengthened your connections to other people?
Of course. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever we speak, the more we speak our truth, I think that aligns with the people that are meant for you, and the
Yeah.
people that are not meant for you. And again,
So
like the
true.
magnetic force of like, the more I speak my truth, the more magnetized my messaging is to go to the right people.
Yeah.
And then the magnet works the opposite way and you
It
can
sure
repel it.
does.
So
It
it's
sure
nice.
does. The law of attraction.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to other women who might be considering either sharing their story, or coming to you for a session?
Yeah.
How would you encourage them?
I would encourage them by helping them practice quieting their inner critic. So, really sitting and reflecting on where the inner critic voice comes from. Is it really your voice? Did someone tell you that in the past? And to just slowly turn the volume down. Um, But I do have to say this too.
Yeah, yeah.
Reading your book, Embody the S, is it called
Embody your essence,
Embodying Your
yes.
Essence? Sorry, I'm like, I didn't want to butcher it. So because I knew you before the
Yeah.
actual book came out, and you were kind of like the first person that I knew to publish a book.
Mm.
And little bits of our conversation, you would like tell me a little bit about your life, and then like all of a sudden I'm reading your book, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that about Jen. I didn't know. But seeing how vulnerable you were on that in your book, um, every time you got vulnerable in the book, I'm like, wow, she's owning it. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how other people are perceiving her story. Like that's your truth and you're owning it. So
Yes.
I think it's reflective in the work that I do because when they come in and they're doing something just for them, like they are truly owning the story and they have to keep reminding themselves like it doesn't matter how someone else feels when they see this
Exactly.
picture, like this is yours.
Exactly.
Other perceptions don't matter, but on the opposite side for you, I feel like it's much bigger, like as a writer, because you're literally letting your story go and your own perception of that story, and you have to let go of the other person's perception.
Mm. It's really important. And I mean, it's so interesting because when I first wrote it, it was really more for me, right? Much like people coming to you for a
Yeah.
session. And then I realized how empowering it was. And that's what led me to this entire movement, which was, then gathering other women together to share their stories and helping them see the power in releasing those narratives about themselves. And it's just and then now we're doing the podcast and it's all so much in alignment with the work that you're doing, but we are so programmed to worry about what everyone else is going to think. Are we going to belong or not belong? Are we going to be understood or misunderstood? And I think this is all about what's important on the inside for us as humans in this earth school, and it takes us a while to learn that
Mhm.
that it's really less about what everyone else thinks and how everyone else is going to respond, and more about coming home to yourself, really, right? So I
Yeah.
am just so excited to connect with you in this way. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the work that you do. And I'm
Same.
so glad that you're doing it. Just keep doing it. And how can people get in touch with you? Because I know now, after listening, I'm going to have all kinds of people who are ready to come to you and have their sessions. How
Yeah,
can
and
they
you
reach
don't
you?
have to take your clothes off for your
You don't always have to take their clothes off. Right, right.
that was a hot topic last night when we saw each other at that
Oh yeah,
event.
yeah, yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
they're like,
have to
oh,
take your
you
clothes off?
don't, you don't have to wear lingerie. I'm like, no, you can be
Yeah,
naked in a sheet, in a drape, in
yeah,
lingerie. You can
yeah.
use your regular clothes, really whatever you feel empowered in. And that's the whole purpose of boudoir is to celebrate yourself, and feel vulnerable while celebrating
But do
yourself.
it
Like,
any, but do it anyway, right?
just do it
Yeah,
scared, do it anyway.
I love it. Well,
So
how can people reach you so they can book their
yes.
appointments?
So you can reach me on my website, www.riamackenzie.photography.com. It is so long. You can find me on Instagram. I am at the Click Witch
I
and
love that. That is the
multiple
best.
containers. Yes, it's a great portal. But I also have multiple containers because of Meta and where I can appropriately share images
Right.
and where women feel safe sharing their images. So I do have a private Facebook group, and I
Okay.
also have a new Telegram group that doesn't allow screenshots or screen recording.
Okay.
So the nips are free there.
Oh, there you go. You are so funny. So I encourage everyone who's listening to please reach out to Ria and learn more about her work. And she's just a beautiful human being. I get to be neighbors with her, which is so nice. Sometimes we wave through the windows,
Yeah,
but we realize we can't really see each other. We just see figures. We have to,
luckily, yeah.
yeah, I know. I was gonna say you always have to tell your people, no, they can't really see you.
I know. I actually had to go next door to believe it. I'm like, you really
Yeah.
can't see me, Jen.
I know it was fun.
Then it was
But
great.
anyway, love you, love the work that you're doing.
Love you too.
So grateful that you had time to be with us today. And I really encourage all of our listeners to check Ria out and her work. And to again, if if you're interested in um sharing your story, either with your narrative in terms of getting on this show, or even helping us do our next anthology, please reach out to me at jen@jengoldbrand.com, and certainly reach out to Ria, and get your sessions booked, because she's a very busy lady, but I know she'll find time for you. So thank you everybody for listening. Have a beautiful day.